Hey Tyler, you're muted. Yeah, there
Hey,
you go.
guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Awesome. I'm fiddling around with it, trying to work out, but no, thanks for having me. Are you guys still having the JaxLUG tonight, or are you guys
Yep,
kind of
yep.
okay?
I'm on YouTube. I'm streaming right now.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, it's a little late to get into everything. You having a good day so far?
Yeah, it's been all right. How about you?
About the same. About the same.
Now the YouTube link I just sent you, well, sent everybody, is probably going to be a little bit latent, right? Because it's doing the normal compression, so it actually looks okay. Uh, but you guys should be able to hear me and hopefully yourselves on it. So if you guys don't mind tuning in and then saying something, I want to make sure that my OBS is set up right for that. Oh, I gotta jump on IRC text chat.
Yeah, like the lone soldier in there. At least I was the other day.
It's just you and me, buddy.
All right, I think I'm live now as well.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a bottom there with us too. It's not just us.
Yeah. Are you able to hear the yourselves on that? I might go ahead and disable that because there is a lot of echoing back and forth.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Okay, so I will go ahead and just turn that off. So you'll only be able to hear me on the YouTube stream.
Oh yeah, the lag's like horrible. Because then it's like a minute before I hear the audio. Hearing stuff from way back.
Yeah, yeah. If you're going to be on the Discord channel, it's probably best to just turn off the audio from the stream.
I wonder how long the lag is. It's the same lag for the video as well.
Well, the video lag is going to be the same. When we record it, it's not going to have a latency, but you're seeing YouTube, have to go through and build on it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like, if you type something, I'll probably see it like a minute later.
Yeah. All right. So I got about 2 minutes. So go get a drink. I got a drink here, so I'm good to go. I encourage people to jump on our IRC channel or our Discord, which seems to be more popular, but it's more the modern equivalent. jump on in and hang out.
I hate the chatting on YouTube. So you get to log in as JaxLUG, so you're still kind of semi-anonymous. But we got to log in with actual like YouTube accounts, and they get to track us and everything.
Yeah, I mean, you could always just use Discord or IRC. We're on all of it.
Well, yes, of course, I'm always on all of it. Although I think we have more on YouTube this time than last time. There's 4 this time. Well, I guess one of those is me, so.
Yeah. Yep. We're at 4 users. You
There's
know,
something
when we had
unannounced.
the
It's
meetings in
informal. It's
person,
not bad.
when we had the meetings in person, I think we were up to like 20 or 30 people a day. I don't know.
Yeah,
if,
no,
like,
it was going.
I don't know if people are like just not wanting to come watch, or if they just say, "Oh, I can watch it at any time, so I'll just come back and watch it later."
I think it's probably the combination of both those, and it's always topic driven too, even for in-person meetings.
Yeah.
Not discounting your topic or any other topic. I'm saying like people's interests vary so much. So.
Mm-hmm. Let me see. Analytics. Oh.
Yeah, I still create e-builds a lot, but I use my e-classes and a bunch of advanced stuff that like I don't think it would make a lot of sense to people to try to show some of that.
Actually, we get a lot of views on these things.
Your topic or any other topic, I'm saying like people's interests vary so much. So.
Yeah. Actually, your topic, the Pixie Boot one for Raspberry Pi, we have 100 views on that one. Good job.
Yeah, I think anything Pi related gets picked up like that. Yeah, I still create e-builds a lot, but I use my e-classes and a bunch of advanced stuff that like I don't think it would make a lot of sense to people to try to show some of that.
Actually, we get a lot of views on these things.
I think that's right on YouTube. It varies so much. So.
Yeah, if you're on this, if you're on the Discord, please mute the YouTube. For Raspberry Pi, we have 100 views on it. I'm going to mute him for himself, just for a minute, because I can't think.
All right, cool, Rob. I had the same thing going on too earlier, so.
Okay. All right, so we got a few peoples running around. I can hear myself in the echo, so if you guys don't mind, just mute yourself unless you want to talk. That way I don't have to hear myself echo. And that'd be great. Look at you, Rob. Alright, well, I'll just have to mute Rob myself. Alright. So, I guess we're going to go ahead and take a look at OBS Studio. So that's actually what I'm using to present. Actually, let me start the recording. Yeah, start recording. All right. Welcome to JaxLUG for March 17th, 2021. We're still remote. Hopefully that'll not be a forever thing. We'll see. I think in the next month or two. Rob, when do we have our elections? Is it April? Usually it's July, I think. I'm not sure how that's going to go.
Yeah, it's usually in June or July.
Okay. Well, we'll try to have something. If nothing else, maybe like throw something up on the mailing list.
You getting anxious for the election again, man? You don't want to run?
I'll just keep towing that line until I can stop. But It certainly hasn't been terribly pleasant just to do it during the pandemic. But it's for the community, so I know you guys enjoy it. So I enjoy having the community, and that's what it takes to keep it running. So
Yeah, I did my duty years ago, so I'm happy to have somebody else wearing the hat.
I don't even know how long I've been running this club. It's been a while, like 6, 7 years. I don't know.
You've had it for, I think, as president for 2 or 3 now.
Is it 2? Have I only been 2 or 3? I think I've been. Oh, we've been. We were at JaxLUG like 7 or 8 years ago. I guess that wasn't the president. I'm not sure. Time flies, man. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You're the records keeper. You should know.
I am not secretary. I am not on the board.
Yeah,
Well, I was never official either. I just kind of stepped up when there wasn't anybody else doing the stuff, and ended up doing way too much. So
yeah, that's Mr. Michael Potts, I think, right now, who doesn't come to the streams. Anyhow, we're going to go over today, just going and doing a kind of a bog standard OBI or OBS install. And I'm going to do it here in my little Mint Linux box. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up to root. I entered my password earlier, so then I want to find it, so I can just do apt search. This is a Debian, or actually it's a Linux Mint box, which is Debian based. Well, it's Ubuntu based, which is also Debian based. So I'm going to do apt search OBS. What that's going to do is it's going to go through the app repository, give me everything that starts out with the OBS, and it highlights it to show me where it found OBS in that string, which is nice and convenient. So I want OBS Studio, so I can do apt install OBS Studio. One of the nice things about Linux is select and middle click is your one of your 2 copy paste buffers. I really like using that a lot. I think it's very convenient. It wants to, these are things that it wants to get rid of. If I wanted to run auto remove, I could get rid of those because those are from updates. I'll do that later. These are the packages that are going to be installed, and then these are the new packages that are going to be installed, assumingly that those are pulled in by the additional packages up here. Usually it says like, here's the packages I need to install, here's the packages that are dependent on the ones that I need to install, and then these are the ones I'm merging in and calling as like quote installed as opposed to just pulled in as dependencies. So as you can see here, it's actually pulling out of the Ubuntu archives. Even though this is Linux Mint, it's using some of the Ubuntu mirrors and stuff for some of the material. Goes through, installs. And done. That's one of the great things about Linux. It's real quick for pulling stuff and getting stuff running. It can lead to some problems, but so now I want to run OBS. Oh, I can't do it on a VM. Sorry. That's unfortunate. It should be able to do it without doing a graphics accelerated thing. So let me see. OBS. OBS.
Why won't it work in a VM?
It doesn't like the GPU. It might be that I just don't have 3D acceleration on or something in my VM here. Let me look at the display settings. No, I have 3. No, it should. Well, that's unfortunate. So what we'll do is instead of that, we will just imagine that I started it, and I'll share my one that is on my desktop right now. So let's see. window capture. I want to change it to none of those. That's unfortunate. Display capture. No. Oh, that's going to be all over the place. Yes. Well, we're not showing that. Okay. So OBS was a bust. All right. So what else do you guys want to see? Any suggestions?
You can't share your screen where aren't you running OBS now to do this?
Yeah, but I don't want to share my whole desktop.
Bummer.
All right, give me just a second. I'll see if I can figure that out.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting little tidbits about Enlightenment. It has like a presentation mode. It doesn't do stuff like scrub your desktop, but that'd be an interesting feature to add to it, kind of like give you a safe desktop and safe environment for doing presentations.
Yeah.
For now, it just like disables your screensaver and power and stuff like that, so you don't actually like log out or it doesn't go to sleep on you in the middle of the presentation.
That's nice. Yeah. We'll just do that. That'll work. Display capture. That thing. Sure. And we'll turn off the window capture. Alright, so you guys should probably see. Oh, jeez. My display is far larger than the. That's the problem, is my display is huge compared to the stream. That'll work. Can you guys see that? It might take it a second for you to.
I'm seeing a whole bunch of recursive windows.
Yeah, that's exactly what you need to see.
Okay, yes.
All right, so this is the OBS interface. So when you run it, it gets into this section. Right here, you have the sources. It's safe to ignore. I can't cut that out. It's safe to ignore everything inside of this red and blue box. That is that's it showing itself over and over and over again down the line. As you can see, my mouse kind of wall affecting, which is really neat, but it's not what you should look at. So that's going to be very confusing to some people, and I'm sorry, but I can't really get rid of that. And that's why I didn't want to show this one, because it's just like irritating. So once you load up OBS, and this will be true for at least Linux and Windows. I don't know about Mac. I assume that Mac has OBS and probably has a similar interface, but for Linux and Windows, this works pretty much the same way. When you set this thing up first, this sources will be blank, I believe, and what you're doing is you're adding sources that you want to display. So right now, you can see that I have two displayed. There's display capture, which is capturing what you see here. This is just my Windows machine display. and then I have audio input capture. And if I click on either one of those, you can see that the device that it's grabbing is put right here. And so I go in and select whichever ones I wanted to select, and it'll change it. The little eye here will turn it on and off, and so it'll basically allows the people to see it or not. And so I can turn on and off audio sources or display sources and stuff like that. And then you can build scenes, which are like sets of stuff. And so, like, if you want to have a uh, a picture for display for like a YouTube session that you're doing, and you set that as a scene for like intro, and then you have like an outro with a different picture, and then you have like the main one, which has all your sources for doing your stuff. And so you can sit there and walk between scenes, you can walk between sources, all that kind of stuff. And it can get kind of complex, but most of the time what people have problems with is the sources. Basically what you want to do is you want to have audio input capturing the microphone. In my case, I'm having it capture it through the NVIDIA Broadcast, which is this program. If you're running Windows, I don't think that this is a beta product, so it's probably not for Linux yet. But if you have a 2000 series or better NVIDIA card, you can actually use this, and the noise removal on the microphone is incredible. What it does is it actually uses the Tencent cores, and they use algorithms. They call it AI, but AI is just algorithms, to figure out what is your voice and what is not. And so I don't know if you can hear that or not, but I've done tests with it where I have people be like, "Wow, I can't hear you clapping and or like, you know, typing or anything like that." I can sit there and be typing and talking, and I have a mechanical keyboard, and people just can't hear it, and that's great. I like using that a lot. Or you could set it to your microphone itself, or whatever. For window capture, I have that set to my VirtualBox, which is what you were looking at before. And so what it does is it's just capturing just the little VirtualBox guy for that. So I can move that window all around my desktop here, and it's just capturing that. So that's great for presentations where you're just like, I want to do this stuff, and they don't need to see anything else because you don't need to see anything else, right? Great. And right now you can see that little eye is grayed out. It's got a little slash through it, and that's why you can't see it in the stream. Over here we have the start and stop recording and streaming. Streaming is where you send it to a service, so either to Twitch or YouTube, or if you run your own RNCMP server or something like that, you would do streaming. Or you could just straight up record. Like if you just want to record something, send it to somebody, you want to record something, put it up on YouTube, whatever, you can just record it and then do whatever you need to do with the file after the fact. So next we'll go up to File and Settings. In the settings, we have Stream. I'm not going to show you this. Actually, I don't think I can even click on it right now, which is good. Because I'm streaming right now, what I'm doing is I'm streaming to YouTube RTMP. So that's the YouTube RTMP server. And I'm sending it to the primary ingest server. There's also a secondary ingest server if for some reason the primary one is having trouble. When you do a YouTube stream, they'll actually provide you with a stream key, and you can put that stream key in here and then send the data over to YouTube, and that key allows you, it's basically your username and password. It's more or less an API key that you're providing the ingestion server, and you're saying, hello, here's my API key, I would like to send you a stream, and then you start streaming it data, and then it processes it and does its stuff with it. My output here, I actually put this at 8,000. They default to like 1,200 or something, and YouTube will complain if it's like over 2,000. But I've noticed that because we deal with a lot of code and small text, it's really bad if the stream is garbled or like hard to read, and so bumping that up seems to help. And then also I have the stream set to normal encode, which allows the YouTube servers more time to do the transcoding, so it's less garbagey. You have less of the like black, or the not black, but the blocks, right? They're not really colors. They're just like, you can see the rendering blocks, and they're real jagged and nasty looking. As you increase the speed of the encode, it decreases the quality, right? And so at normal, it does have probably 45-second to a 60-second delay, but the quality is much better. Your audio bitrate is the quality of the audio. The encoder is the encoder type. There's software and there's hardware. If you can use hardware, it is so much better. The reason I couldn't stream off of my little Odroid X or Odroid H2 Plus that I run my Linux desktop off of was because it doesn't have hardware for encoding, and it's, compared to the machine that we're on right now, which is my gaming machine, very slow, right? But it sips power compared to my gaming machine. I'm probably using right now like 4 watts, 5 watts to run a desktop, which is insane. Whereas my gaming desktop right now is probably pushing 600 to 700 watts, right? So the difference is obscene, the amount of power difference. But that comes with some trade-offs. I can't run things like this on that machine. It just does not have the horsepower for it. But I can watch Netflix or YouTube, or I'm on IRC on it. I got consoles open. I got all kinds of fun stuff running over there. It's great. It's a great little machine. I love the heck out of that. I do a lot of stuff on that one. But for certain things like games and streaming and stuff, it's not so good. It's not so good at that. So, but that's what it's not for. When you record this output, here's the streaming section and here's the recording section. The recording section here, you can also tell it to do specific things. Now, if you're doing streaming and recording and you don't have encoding hardware, or if your encoding hardware is not able to do 2 streams at once, you might not be able to do both of these at the same time. Because I have a pretty high-end card, mine can do 2 NV encodes at the same time, and do the NVIDIA broadcast software. So it's doing a whole bunch of, my video card is doing some heavy lifting with this stream. Whereas if I was doing software encoding, I might not be able to do, even with the i7 processor, I might not be able to do a full high quality stream and a full high quality recording, and it certainly wouldn't do the NVIDIA cleanup of the audio and stuff. So there's that. Then on video, you have your base canvas and your scaled resolution. And so the base canvas resolution, what you're doing is you're telling it, like, I want this, the base canvas is this thing where you see in red right here. That is the full size in pixels of your base canvas, right? That's where you're painting, right? That's where you're putting all your stuff. Generally, you want to match that to what YouTube wants to do. I'm actually doing 1920 by 1250 because in ARander for my VirtualBox, because VirtualBox puts those little tabs on the top and bottom, and I was doing a window as opposed to a display capture to share it, it was giving me those little top and bottom. But 1280 by or 1920 by 1080 with those little white bars on the top and bottom of the VirtualBox session, they added about 70 pixels. So I just increased the size of my base canvas resolution by 70 pixels so everything wouldn't be crushed down. And then I matched my output scaled resolution. Now, in this particular, and it actually gives you your aspect ratio, which is really cool. usually this is going to be like 16 by 9, 16 by 10. We're at a strange resolution here. For like, if I was going to just share my desktop screen, I have a 2K monitor, so it's a 2560 by 1440 resolution. What I would likely do is I would have OBS scale it before it sent it to YouTube, right? And so my base canvas resolution would be 2560 by 1440, but then my output scaled resolution would be 1920 by 1080, right? And the idea is I want to match the resolutions of these two sets, but the output should be smaller so I can send it over with my upload bandwidth and with whatever stream capabilities I have. And so if I was trying to use this for like Discord or something, and I had a free account on Discord, they only allow 720p, right? And so I would scale this to 720 instead, and then hand it to it. And so I can control all of the scaling and do a much better job with the NVENC transcoding than they would with their system, and make it look all blocky and stuff like that. You have a downscaling filter, which allows, since I'm doing the same resolution, it's not actually doing any downscaling, but this would allow you to change how your downscaling works, right? And so if you want to work with it, see like what works best for whatever you're doing, if you're doing games streaming, or if you're doing like text streaming, like what we do for the most part, or if you're showing like a video or like whatever, you might want to change how the downscaling filter works. And then you can also lock out the FPS. I just have it at 30 because that's a common thing to go to the internet. We don't need 60 frames per second to show a terminal. That's crazy. In advance, you can like do other stuff like video and color formats and all this stuff. You probably don't need to care about that. This is process priority. Depends on what you're trying to do, but for me, normal is totally fine. All right. So I'm going to switch back, and what I'll do is I'm going to show you right here. I got window capture, I got display capture, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on window capture, so guys don't just see nothing for a second. And then I'm going to turn off display capture, and you'll see what that does. Turn that on, turn that off. Boom, done. Are there any questions? I don't see any from anybody.
Yes, I got questions.
Okay, we have questions.
So you were talking about
Actually,
upload.
Let me see if this will work. I can maybe let's see. I'm gonna switch it back to that, and we're gonna turn on output, and we'll see if the people can hear you. But I'll repeat the question regardless.
Okay. So what upload bandwidth do you recommend for streaming 1080?
I believe YouTube recommends around 1200 or something, but it really depends on your bandwidth, your upload bandwidth. I have the fastest thing that Comcast will provide me with, and that is, I think I get about 35 or 40 megabits up,
Wow.
which is pitiful, but in Jacksonville, it's pretty great,
The reason I ask is at our church we have 100 megabit service, business Comcast business, but we only have like I'm only getting like 5 or 6 megabit up.
Mm-hmm. That's totally the way it works. Yeah.
Is that enough? Because we tried running a test the other day with OBS streaming upload and doing a PowerPoint or something like that, and it choked.
Yeah, so you don't want to completely saturate your upload, because what happens is
and I'll repeat it. Hey Dan. whatever change you made a second ago, it turned the echo on. It made it echo. Like I could hear Rob through the YouTube before you allowed him to talk or whatever. It was weird.
Okay. Well, I just turned off the audio output capture, so we'll see how that works out. What you can do is you determine your upload bandwidth. Okay, so the question was, so if anybody couldn't hear it, the question was, how do I determine what my upload bandwidth should be? So this little green thing here, this kilobytes per second, what I should set that to in this streaming, so this video bitrate right here. All right. You need to find out what your upload rate, your allowable rate is, right? So the question was, he has 100 megabit down at the church he's running the stream for, but they only have like 5 up. Now, with your DOCSIS provider, in our case Comcast, we're running DOCSIS 3. The way that they have this, basically it's a radio, right? And it's got a number of channels. They dedicate a certain number of channels, a certain bandwidth to downlink, and they dedicate a much smaller channel number and bandwidth to uplink. The reason they do that is because most people, most consumers, are going to download far greater than they're going to upload. Now, for an internet type of idea, let me see. Let's use some paint. Hey, look, that's very bright. Whoop.
I just want to say something real quick to see if I can hear myself through YouTube or not.
I turned that off.
I could hear Rob before you turned it on, though. So whatever you did, like it added a second audio stream and made it echo. It was weird, but it wasn't echoing before you did that. Like I'll have to go back and listen to the recording, but like I think you could hear Rob talking before you enabled that or whatever.
Interesting. I have it set to where we have input capture here, and the input capture is microphone and video broadcast, so it should only be capturing my voice, and so which makes it difficult for the stream because I'm sitting here trying to tell people things that I just heard from you, but didn't convey. So what he was saying is there was potentially like you could hear the audio input and stuff like that. One of the ways that is great for testing this stuff to try to figure out exactly what you're trying to do, make sure everything's working, is to record it. And so instead of initializing a stream and fussing with the stream level and everything, just set everything up the way that you want it to work, record it, do a little test, stop recording it, watch it, and see if that output is specifically what you want to see, right?
Hey, so is that audio muted now?
Yeah, it's still muted.
Because I could hear everything I was just saying to you a little bit. It's still coming through.
Really? That's strange. Maybe it's pulling in with the display capture or something. That's very odd. It shouldn't do that. Oh well. Something we'll have to play with. Who knows? I'm not sure why I pulled up paint. We're going to show.
I don't think the last thing I said came through. Oh, no, I did. Here it is right.
That was a jumble to me. I couldn't understand. Can you mute the YouTube when you're talking?
Yeah, no, I did, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I thought like it wasn't coming through on YouTube the whole time because I have it muted and I couldn't hear myself. But when I unmute it, I can hear everything that we're saying to each other. But with an echo for some reason. So I don't know. Like for a little bit when Rob was talking, there wasn't an echo, and then you did something like then all of a sudden there was an echo, and now even though we're muted, I can still hear myself.
Huh. Well, there's nobody talking about it.
It comes through like a minute or so later. So
yeah, it's just the encoding. So I don't know why I pulled this up. Oh, it's because that one's annoying. All right. So whenever there's a request, I don't use Paint very much. There we go. Boop. All right. So you have your clients down here. Is there text? Yeah. You. All right. So you have you and the internet server, right? And you make a connection through the internet to this internet server. Your upload is you send a request, right? So you say, I send to Facebook. Please give me facebook.com. I send to YouTube. Please give me youtube.com. And then youtube.com or whatever will then send you a whole bunch more information based on that request. So your upload, what you send, is generally a lot of requests, and your data that you send is usually very small. That changes when you do larger applications. So what we're doing right now, streaming. I'm sending a lot of data from me to the YouTube servers, and the YouTube servers are then the client. They're ingesting it, right? So for me, my upload bandwidth is being heavily used, whereas y'all watching this, your upload or your download bandwidth is being heavily used, but your upload bandwidth is not. So in a general sense, the way that the ISPs have always skewed until they do symmetrical internet, they always skew the amount of bandwidth that they allocate, because there's a certain amount of bandwidth they can allocate. They only allocate a small amount for the upload, but then they allocate a much larger amount for the download, right? So if mom and dad want to go and watch Netflix or YouTube or whatever, it's quick and it's good for them, and they don't really care about the upload. Whereas if you want to use Zoom, you want to upload to YouTube, you want to do a whole lot of different number of things, you're going to use a lot heavier amount of upload bandwidth. So we're caught in this system where they've engineered the system in such a way where it is aggressively pushed towards the download site. So Rob said that they're on 100 down, right? So they get 100 megabit down on a business connection, but they're only at 5 up, right? So it's 95% of the bandwidth is dedicated to downlink, and only 5% is uplink, right? And so if they're trying to do a multimedia stream, something that they're pushing data out to YouTube, so that maybe they have worship and they want to have people be able to be at home and be able to watch it and not have to wait for like somebody to upload it, but just watch it, enjoy it, and do it during the thing. They're having problems with doing that, and that's the question right now. So as you subscribe to a higher and higher bandwidth service, they will increase your caps linearly. And so you'll probably still have, like I have a gigabit down. There's no way I need a gigabit down. I mean, a couple of times I'll be on like Steam or something. I'm like, hey, look, a game, and it's like 80 gigs for some reason. And then I'll use my gigabit. But other than that, I was super happy with 100 megabit. If I get 100 megabit synchronous, great, fantastic. That would be the best of all worlds. But that's not how they engineer their service. So
I think some of that actually has to also do the electrical aspect of it, because most all fiber services are symmetrical, and it's mostly the electric-based ones that are not symmetrical. And I think it also has to do like with wireless, where it's easier to broadcast than it is to receive. So like that's why you can have a wireless access point that can serve multiple clients. But as you get farther away from that, the clients have a hard time responding back, even though they can receive the signal, they just can't send it back. So
those are a lot of different determinations.
I think there's
generally
technology
wireless
limitations
is
in that as
symmetrical. Generally wireless is symmetrical because you're dealing with more of a hub than a switch. But certainly fiber is not symmetrical necessarily. In fact, I was talking to some of the probably about a year ago. They upgraded my neighborhood's nodes, right, which are basically the distribution areas for the internet. So what they do is they run fiber. They run multi-link fiber, which is a single fiber, a single piece of glass that runs from the node back to the CO, right? They can run, I think the guy said it was like 80 or 90 different wavelengths of light in bidirections down that, right? And what they do is they don't run 80 or 90 or 120 or whatever, what ridiculous number they can with that multi-mode fiber link. They run just how many they need. So they're running 10 gig to each one of these nodes, and the nodes have that bandwidth available to them. The electrical ones, now you can't think of these as electrical. They're not electrical pulses. You have to think of DOCSIS modems like a radio, right? Broadband, the reason it's called broadband is because it runs down a coaxial fiber or a coaxial cable. Radio waves run down that. And so the reason it's called broadband is because the band that you're able to broadcast within that fiber is huge, right? Because it's protected, it's grounded on the outside. And so you have this huge allocation of radio that you can run down this cable and allocate it for different things. And so like Comcast, they do TV and phone and internet all through this one wire, right? And the way they do that is they're allocating different parts of the radio band in that cable to different things that you're doing. The reason that internet a lot of times has problems is because a lot of that allocation is on the higher frequencies. The higher frequencies are more readily hurt by water intrusion. And those cables are really good at soaking up water. We live in Florida, and if you don't have the ends of your cable like properly terminated and shielded and water resistant housing and stuff like this, if you get water into those cables, it attenuates that signal. That signal gets absorbed by the water, and you lose some of the channels. And so what they do is they have more or less a whole bunch of radios in these modems. So they'll be like in the big ones, that like the one that does the gigabit here, it's got like 40 or 50 radios. It could do 40 or 50 different bands that it's transmitting and receiving on for different things. And that allows it to spread that data across those bands. It's kind of like LACP, where if anybody knows what that is basically you're taking a whole bunch of different links and combining them together into a single fabric. If you go in and you hurt one or two of those, right? So if you have a bit of a damaged cable or you got a little water intrusion or something, and it's attenuating part of that radio signal, what ends up happening is it becomes lossy, and that link is not built for redundancy, it's built for speed. And so any loss on any of the radio signals equates to loss. And that's why a lot of times you'll be like, oh, I have 1% loss or something like that, and it's very consistent at being 1% loss. It's because one of the radio bands is being clipped off, or there's something wrong with it, and whenever it hits that on its oscillation through the channels, it loses that signal, right? That's why, like, I love fiber and fiber's got a whole bunch of other positives. There's a negative, which is cost, but in Florida, lightning strikes are a hell of a thing. And having all these wires running directly from everywhere to the inside of your house where there's expensive equipment, not the best idea.
But that's why I laid a bunch of fiber at the RV resort that I was doing a long time ago, because they had lightning strikes on trees all the time. Mm-hmm. And when they had their Nortel mesh wireless system set up, or kind of more of a repeater system than a mesh system. The nodes on that thing were like 2,000 a piece, and they had 3 of them get taken out by lightning.
Absolutely. And lightning does a small EMP charge as well. I believe, because I've had close hits near my house and it's taken out switches, but not by hitting the switch. Like the switches were all isolated from, they have all the power grounding and all that kind of stuff, but it took out like their ports, and it didn't take out like the modem or anything like that. It just took out the ports on these, and these were, they have all the network stuff going through the attic and stuff, so it's basically giant antennas, like just sticking out everywhere. So I think that's what really hit it, was probably a bit of an EMP. Probably not, as big as if you set off a nuke or something, but localized interference, strong, messes with the little tiny chip on it that doesn't have anything to protect it, So, rolling all the way back to our conversation that I will yammer for hours. My friends know this well. What you want to do is the modems will generally have an upload buffer, okay? And that buffer is something that you need to fight. If you saturate your upload buffer, what will happen is you will start getting rejected packets and stuff, or slowed down packets, and you'll get this weird stuff happening. For downlink, it's not a huge deal because all of that buffering is handled upstream, right? And so that they'll try to offer it to you fast, and then if you can't take it, they'll offer it to you slower, and so on and so forth. But when you're sending it, they can take it in as fast as they're sending it, and you need to negotiate slower and slower rates. Well, when I'm setting the rate, right? When I'm setting the rate right here, I'm actually telling it, I want you to transmit at this rate specifically. Then it's not going to like try to adjust down or do anything like that. It's going to just try to hit it. So what I would do is I would go in, I would try to figure out what your upload rate is, like stop all of the like people from doing stuff, figure out what your upload rate is, and then maybe take 80% of that, calculate it out to 80%, and use that as your upload rate. Potentially, if you have a smaller cap, like the 5 megabit, and then you're starting to be like at 4 megabit or 3 megabit, you might want to only transmit at 720p, because then it's not going to be compressing as badly the stream to try to crunch it down to that lower bandwidth. So that's what I would say. I would say if you have a 5 megabit upload, more than likely you're going to be wanting to transmit at 3 megabit or 3000. Well, it's 3, yeah, these are kilobits. So yeah, these are kilobits per second, not to be confused with kilobytes per second. So we're talking about megabits and kilobits here. So we're talking the same. If I have 5 megabits up, then I would probably start out at 3 megabits up for the streaming session here. And at 3 megabits, you might want to, that's probably plenty for a 1080p stream. But if it seems to still be struggling, then look at your latency. Like just do a ping. Just sit there and ping 1.1.1.1 and see if your latency goes up. If your latency goes way up, you're probably saturating your upload connection. And you'll have to reduce that video bitrate more. If your ping doesn't go up, but you think that you still have some wiggle room, you might be able to bump that number up and move up. Ping is a really good indicator of if your upload is saturated or not. You can sit there and ping something, and let's say you're pinging 1.1.1.1, which is it's one of the anti-hammer services. I forgot who they were. But you ping them, or Google DNS 8888, and let's say you're getting 20, 25, 20, 25, something around that, and then you start your stream test, and you start hitting 50, 60, you might be around capacity, right? You start hitting 300, 400, you're way over your capacity. So try to keep that around that.
Ping.
What's that?
So you can show ping, right?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I figure people know how to ping stuff, but
You'd be surprised. Some people may not.
all right, so we're going to show you how to ping stuff. Woo. Where's that window?
So I was saying, like, as you're talking about
there we go.
Yeah.
So if I ping 101.1.1, you can see my ping's pretty good. On Windows, this will actually stop at the fourth one, but you can add a -T to just let it keep going. And you just sit there and watch it. And if you see this time start skyrocketing, then you might be having an issue. Also, judging how healthy your connection is an important point as well. So if you run the ping for a couple of minutes and then see if you have any packet loss. If you have packet loss, talk to your ISP. Try to figure out the packet loss, because you could be having problems with that too.
That's like the main issue I've ever had with both AT&T and Comcast over the years. And it's never been localized. It's always been like citywide or somewhere else on the network.
Yeah.
And trying to call that packet loss is like speaking a foreign language to the text. Or like, what?
Well, and that is one of the nice things about I've had I don't actually have business anymore, but when I had business, I called people and they knew what I was talking about, and they would roll a truck or something. Now they wouldn't do anything more than the other people would, but they were certainly nicer to me. I didn't have to sit there and be like, yes, I restarted my computer. I know how a computer works. Let's go. Now, that being said, this is consumer technology, right? These modems are on for years sometimes, right? Sometimes they take firmware updates and don't fully restart, something like that. And so restarting your modem is a valid and very good step to do. Like, it clears the cache because it's got a little cache in there. Cache being a memory, right? It's a memory that's it's temporarily storing things. So it's got what's called a cache, CACHE. Don't start breaking your modems open and be like, where's the money? But when you do a full, it's called a POR, a power on reset. You're clearing the cache. You're letting maybe pull the power, let it rest for a minute, let the components cool down, let them warm back up when you turn it back on. Because these things cook, right? They're radios. They're powerful radios. There's a lot of them in there, and they get hot, right? There's a lot of power going through that thing, and so those things just sit there and cook for years. Yeah. Big tip: don't let your stuff cook. Like, the colder computer components are, to a certain extent, not past the dew point, but the cooler components are, the longer their lives, the better they're going to operate. And that's pretty universal for electronics. So if you have a TV and it's out on the back porch and you're running it, and it's 120 degrees outside and 100% humidity, it's not going to last as long as the one that's sitting inside of your house that's sitting at a nice 75 degrees and like 50% humidity all of its life. It's just electronics. Does that answer your question, Rob?
Yeah, I think the ping thing is a good idea. I haven't tried that. Normally, we used to, before COVID, we would stream up to a provider to their site, like sundaystreams.com, and then everybody would go to that website and download the stream. And there was like a 45 to a minute and a half, 45 second to a minute and a half delay
Mm-hmm.
by the time, from what we were broadcasting to what people were seeing. Now with COVID, we haven't broadcast from the church at all. We're just doing straight up Zoom from everybody's house.
Oh.
But now they want to start going to a hybrid service once people start filtering into the church. So, I mean, I installed OBS, and I've got OBS working with our two PTZ cameras, and I use the virtual camera output, and I'm piping that to Zoom, and it seems to be working pretty well. I have a small audio to video delay that I'm working through right now. And then we tried pulling in a PowerPoint thing, and then that's when it got really boggy. And my tech guru she's like, "Oh yeah, what's our upload bandwidth?" I said, "I don't know." But I'll try that with the ping and see if that helps, or see if it helps me narrow down things. So I'm going to get with our admin tomorrow and call Comcast and see what they're throttling us to.
Well, what you can do is run a speed test, and so
I've done. I never get more than like 6 down or 6 up.
And I'm just going to show this for the stream, but I'm going to get clone. Yeah. I've seen where somebody had like a Python way of doing this, but I always forget it. But basically, there's this little utility. It's more or less speed test com or whatever the speed test is. And dude made a little CLI thing for it, so I could just run this Python program right here. Yeah, well, let's see if it just runs with the .py. Yeah, so it's just doing the same thing. Now, I hope that it doesn't mess up my stream. It might. You might see a little bit of a mess up, but it's going to check the upload now. And it tells you what your upload is. I think that's my external IP. Yeah, so right now I have gigabit, i.e. I don't have gigabit. So I have 400 down. That fluctuates wildly. What they mean when they say they're giving you gigabit, they're giving you best effort. So maybe my neighborhood's saturated. Maybe the test server's saturated. Because again, somebody has to send to me at gigabit to do that. So the test server might just be saturated, only being able to perform. 400 megabit is pretty even. So maybe this test server only allows you to do 400 megabit. I don't know. But you can see that I have 36.47 megabits per second up. And thereby I could potentially push 36,000 approximately kilobits up, right? Which is great. If you're doing a Zoom call, one of the things you're doing with Zoom calls is you're having a whole bunch of people connect to you. Well, you're all connecting through the Zoom service, right? But you're uploading your camera, your audio, that kind of stuff. But then you're also downloading the camera and audio from all the other people too. and I'm not sure how efficient they are at, like, if you're doing like the multi-person view or something like that, if it like transcodes it down on their end before they send it to you, so you're just inundated with bandwidth. It would make sense. Um, but you're able to just switch very quickly to a full screen view of somebody, so they might be sending you the whole stream. Um, so your downlink might be being saturated if it's a whole bunch of people. But Zoom is certainly not a lightweight system. And if you're doing Zoom at the same time as trying to do a stream upload with OBS, you're probably highly oversaturating your connection, because Zoom is probably going to use up as much as it can.
No, we are not streaming with OBS while Zooming. We're just streaming from OBS to Zoom using the virtual camera.
Oh, okay. And that's where you're having the problem?
Then when we started using OBS to suck in the whole PowerPoint thing, that's when it went south.
You might be having not like, all right, so if OBS is not going out to the internet, your stream bandwidth doesn't matter. If you're streaming it to basically a local camera source, I've never done that, so I can't really advise you on that particular bit. But I would say that you might be running out of processor resources or something. You might be running the box too hot. Check
No,
your.
I think the CPU is still pretty good. You can monitor that in OBS at the lower right hand side, and I don't think we ever got above like 60%.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
I
only
don't
running.
know.
Well, I'm running at
Question.
1% with mine, but I'm doing. Okay, so one of the other things that might be doing it as well. So let me switch to display capture. Turn off window capture. Okay. Let's see. Can you see this whole thing? Yeah, you can. You see my CPU right here. I'm running at 1.9%. Well, you can't see it yet because we're talking and you get the latency. But CPU on mine's running at 1.4%, right? And the reason it's only running at 1.4% is because it's using the NV encoder. It's using my video card to do the encoding. You can go online and let's see. Can you guys see that? Yeah, you can. Cool. All right. So NVIDIA NVNC. You can get a list of the cards. Just looking it up real quick. No, that's not Elgato. What is this crap? Oh, Elgato. Yeah. NVIDIA actually has a site with it, but I'm running DuckDuckGo here. Maybe. Stream. Oh, there we go. Oh, maybe. It's actually an NVIDIA guide for OBS. That's interesting. Oh, look at that. There you go. Okay, so NVIDIA has an OBS guide, which is interesting. So certainly look at that. Here, I'll put that in the Discord. Like so.
Now you're assuming I have an NVIDIA graphics card.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So if you're running at like 60%, right? You're running your CPU at 60%. The software transcoder may not have all the threads that it needs to get to 100%, right? Because all of the processes are built upon how they are they're coded in a particular way, and they have master or child threads and different things, and they don't always scale properly. So if you have, let's say you have a dual core or even a quad core at that facility, and if that, I don't know how well this encoder works, maybe the encoder can only take one thread or two threads, right? So if you have a quad core and it can only really use two threads, then it uses up 50% of the processor, and then that's it. That's all it can use. That's all it can use by how it is coded. And so you see 50% usage on your processor, but it's actually using 100% of the resources it can, and it's still choking. You know? So
Right. Yeah, I understand.
that could also be the problem as well, where it's just not, it's still resource starved. It's just doing it in a way that looks like it's not. You know?
Yeah, I'll check that out tomorrow.
Yeah. Cool. Any other questions?
Yeah, that audio is still going through. I don't know if I just sound like crap, but Rob sounds good.
Oh yeah.
That's the important thing. So how do you get the streaming key for your YouTube thing?
Let's see.
That's just one of the questions I wrote down while you were going through your presentation.
All right, so
I'll see if I can get some information on that too. I know a few people that do live streams and they actually do like call-ins and stuff, and theirs is pretty much real time. So I'm not sure what all they're doing for that.
I'll show you. Let's see. I have to get to. Where is it? I gotta get to the current one. It's always weird. Content. No. Here's all of our stuff that we. It's all public. You guys can go watch and play. It's always hard for. Oh, there it is. Live. There it is. Yeah. So I go to that one. Their interface is not great. It's better than it was. This is. Is this the one we drew? Yeah, that's the one. Oh, no, it's not.
You should monetize that.
Monetize it, yeah. No, not help. I don't want to go to help. Go live. There we go. So I had to go to go live and then go in there. You guys still see it, hopefully? I mean, it looks like it's okay. So I'll resize this. Let's see. Break that up. There we go. Let's see if that looks right.
Actually, I sound a little bit better now too.
Oh, good. There we go. It's getting closer. I don't need to see the chat. There we go. Okay. So I am. You'll see it change here in a minute, but well, people watching the stream see it right now. But you see here, this is the live interface, right? So you can actually see like how many users we have, people watching, stream settings. This is thankfully dotted out, and then the stream health. It actually used to just annoy me all the time about the stream health. Now they've actually upped this because this used to not be 4,500 kilobits. It was like 1,200 kilobits. So they must have changed their recommendation. But I am streaming at 8 megabit up, right? 8,166 kilobits. They suggest 4,500 for the stream of this size, right? Here they say like, hey, check your video resolution. I know about it. Also, here's a suggestion of like, your stream rate is higher. Cool. But then it says good connection. So you want to make sure, like, if you are streaming to YouTube, you have a good connection here. your stream settings, when you do set up something, you should get an interface that looks exactly like this. You'll put in a title, a description, if it's allowed for kids or not. I say no just because they put restrictions on that. It's not that this is not a kid-friendly thing. I mean, I'm sure we probably let slip a couple of curse words here and there, but it's not something that we try to stop doing that. But I would recommend against, unless it's specifically for children. I would recommend against setting that to on, just because of the extra restrictions. I don't know. They do a bunch of different things with that. Can actually grow this a little bit more. We have an auto-generated key, and then this is the stream key, right? And then here's our two stream URLs. So this is A and B. This is the primary. This is the backup. So when you go into OBS, you do the settings, stream, and that primary YouTube ingest server is that stream URL. You can actually, it's just got it coded in there already. But if you wanted to send your own RTMP thing with VLC, or you can actually do it with FFmpeg if you wanted to. Actually, looking at the stream, it's you can see what I see on my stream, or my screen, and then the live preview up here in the top left. You can see what the delay is. Right. That stream key is this one right here, and it says paste into the encoder. You can copy that without seeing it, and then it also blots it out here, which is great. If anyone has that stream key, they can take your stream over, right? It's an API key that authenticates you. It is your authentication. Think of it as like a username and password. You need to protect it. That's why it's not visible. You can change it. When you hit reset, it just gives you a totally new key. And so if you've given it out, like what I've done in the past, is I've actually gone out and I've said, okay, you're presenting. I've reset the key. I copy it. I send it to the presenter, right? I have the key because I'm running, like I have access to this, so I have access to the key directly. But they also have the key. Now, when I do a new stream, it keeps the key the same, right? And so if I'm doing a new stream, when that other person is not presenting, then I just hit reset and it regenerates a new key. Boom, done. And now I don't have any worry about somebody trying to take over that key. The DVR is basically if you want it to record it. You'll see that I have a lot of times there'll be like JaxLUG Meeting and then JaxLUG Meeting recorded. That's because I've actually recorded it, and the recorded quality is a lot better than the stream one because of how fast it is transcoding it, especially when we do low latency. Down here we have these three choices of normal, low, and ultra low latency, and that is how fast it ingests the material, transcodes it, and then sends it out. I'm doing normal latency so people can see clearly, but it does cost time. If you do low latency, it's kind of like a middling. It's kind of between the two. If you do ultra low latency, it looks like hot garbage, but it's nearly instantaneous. That's your stream latency. This is how fast they're encoding it. And then there's other options that I don't really poke at. Auto start means that once you're right now it's set to where when I start the stream, like when I start sending OBS to it, it doesn't just automatically kick off. Like when I have something configured, it just waits until I hit go live. So there's a little go live button that's usually up here. This is the end stream button right now. And so if I hit this, the stream just stops, right? And so let's say you had a problem. One of the other reasons I don't have these selected, let's say I have a problem. Let's say I had a bit of a hiccup in, see, we're losing people. We're playing with YouTube. Let's say we have a hiccup, and our stream stops for a second, right? Well, what that might do is if I have auto stop on, it just terminates the stream. It just says, stream's over, bye, right? So that's not great. And then auto start, we want to have a little time to get everything set up, especially if we're having somebody else present. And so we don't want it to immediately start. We want to get everything set up, make sure everything's working right, and then we can start it on our own. I don't know what this 360 video is. Apparently you can add even more delay. One of the things is you can't change most of these settings while it's running. Like I cannot change the stream latency. I cannot change like the enable auto start or closed caption or 360 video or anything like that. I can change the key, but yeah. All right. Next question. Let's do some Linuxy stuff. What do you guys want to see in Linux? Or unless you have another burning question.
No further questions.
Cool. I hope that answers.
I actually need to fall off here. I got to do some other stuff here.
Okay. I think that's probably good. Let's do a little. What do you guys want to see on the command line, real quick? A command line corner. We'll do a little couple-minute command line corner. What do you think, Rob? Let's teach somebody something. How about graph?
It was so sad that I haven't used Linux in so long. Really, I was using SCP to copy over some directories from one laptop to my new laptop, and it got into because I was doing SCP-R. It follows links, so it filled up my hard drive rather quickly because it was doing recursive loops, recursive links. No, so I ended up, it's like, oh, it's been so long, I forgot. So I went and instead went there and tarred up the .wine and .play on Linux directories and then copied them over, and then untarred them, and all was well. But I know you're supposed to be able to CP and tar at the same time, right?
Yeah, you can pipe that stuff with SSH.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's do some.
I personally never use SCP. I usually use SFTP for just like a single file or two. But if I have like a directory,
so
pipe it over SSH.
Make dir foo, c foo, touch one .1.1000.
I still do actually some system backups that way.
Yeah. So I have 1,000 files in here, right? Tarring them up, not a huge deal because I'd be able to do that with just tar and be quick. But I could do that inline. So let's say I want to send this to my server area. So I'm going to say tar minus c zf dash foo pipe ssh. Let's see. I might have to look this up because I always forget this. Let's see. Now there's a whole bunch of people that have done this, but like 12 years ago when I first did this, it was like one person I saw that had done this, and it's just like, oh my god, this is amazing. Yeah, that'll work. All right, so I've done that part right. So what I'm doing here is I'm running tar, which is tape archive. Actually, let me set this back to this because it's probably clearer. There we go. That's probably easier to read. All right, so I have tar, which is tape archive. That's what it actually means, is tape archive. It is a very old command. And I'm throwing it some flags. C means to compress. Z means to gzip. You can also use J for bzip2, or I believe capital J for xz. And then F means file. All right. Then I have a dash. The dash, in this particular case, means standard out. So if I did this, then I do file on foo.tgz, there you go. That's a tar gzip, right? Now, I didn't do that in the normal way you would do that. You would usually do tar minus czf and then foo.tgz and foo, right? What you're doing is this guy is outputting it to standard out. So if you, I don't know if this is going to screw up my console or something, but if I do this, you're going to see machine data. Oh, let's see, echo. Nope. Well, anyway, it would dump basically compressed machine code onto the terminal. It'd be very nasty looking. Then we're going to take pipe, and what the pipe does is it's going to take the standard out of whatever is piping into it, which is our tar command here, and it's going to send it into the standard in of the next command. So the next command is SSH. All right, and I'm already my user, and so I'm just going to say area, which I think is set up on my network, and what these people are saying to do is do a cat. Now, this is a decent way of doing it, but I want to extract it on the other side. So I'll say cat pipe tar minus xz, and that should probably work. Let's see. Looks like it might have worked. All right, so we're going to SSH to area and ls foo. Hey, look at that. All right, so what I did is I ran my tar, I compressed, gzipped it into a file. The file was standard out, and the directory that I was trying to do that to was foo. Then tar took that data, put it into standard out, pipe sends it to SSH. SSH, I wanted to go to my server area. Then on area, I ran the command cat. Now cat is concatenate. What it's doing is it's literally just taking the input that I'm providing it and just dumping it out, right? So I have to do that with something, right? So I'm using cat to do that. So it's just taking the standard in that is being provided and just spitting it back out in the standard out. Cool. I pipe the output from that. I run it into the tar on the other side, and then I tell it minus xz. Now there's not a file it's getting it from, so what it's doing is it's actually getting it from standard input, and then it's extracting, which is the x, and expecting a gzip type of encoding or compression, which is the z. And so it extracts it on the other side, and then as you can see with my SSH area ls foo, there's my 1,000 files. There you go.
All right.
Oh, command line corner, making a comeback.
My only comment is the C is create, not compress.
Oh, is it? Yeah, that is true. That's true. You're correct. It is create. Because Z is compress in this particular format. Yeah. So you could do the same thing without compressing it by just dropping the Z's.
Yep.
In this particular format, what would happen is you would draw data copy from one to the other without compression. So if you have something that's got like a crazy fast network, but it's got like a tiny processor, and you don't want to compress, like your network resources are a lot fatter than your CPU resources are, potentially you would want to do it like this. You can also run things like what I've done before is I've done something like this, and then I've done like, I think it's pig Z, and then like I don't remember what the unzip command is, but basically there's a parallelized gzip command. I think it's pigz, and you can actually push data into this. It will thread out into multiple threads to do the compression, and then you pipe that in through the single pipe. You SSH the other connection, and then you do the pig unzip on the other side. And that way you can utilize more of your CPU resources. If you're like, I've had to do that when I'm dealing with like very large files, when I have big servers that I'm dealing with and I'm trying to, transfer hundreds of gigs of data. You got to use things like that, or else it takes you forever, right? It's like if I have to transfer 300 gigs of data and I have a 10 gig link, it's still a 10 gig link. It's not magic, right? And if I try to compress it, the machine's got 64 cores on it, but it's only going to use one, and it's not very fast to do that. And so if you take this approach, then you can flatten that out and use a lot more processors. And instead of it taking like, say, 10 or 12 hours to do 300 gigs, it'll take you like 35 minutes, right? So it's a huge difference depending on where your bottleneck is. Really, is what it comes down to.
And you can also use the different compression algorithms, whether it's like zip, or XZ, stuff like that. Some of them uncompress faster, some of them take longer to compress.
Yeah.
For direct network stuff, I usually just stick with like Z or go raw, just because a lot of times by the time you compress it, the time it takes to compress it will take away from your transfer. So it's always things to trade off and compare.
Absolutely. If you're transferring between two Raspberry Pis, probably don't want to compress things. So yeah, PigZ and unPigZ. And remember, you can also change the amount that you're compressing. And so if you change, like, do -- fast or -- best, it depends on, like, it changes how much it compresses. And with fast, I've used that before. I think somebody's echoing on me. I think it's Rob. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all right. So with fast,
I'm gonna sign off. I'll catch you guys later.
All right, catch you later, man. Thanks for hanging out. So for fast, this is the level of compression, right? And so fast compresses less, but it's faster at doing it. And best compresses more, but it's a lot slower than doing it. You'll also see people use like LZMA. LZMA, I think, is garbage compression. Like, it's very bad compression, but it is dumb fast. Like, it is super fast compression. What's really great about that type of compression, especially if you're dealing with non-encrypted data, if you're dealing with something that's got a lot of text in it, things that are not already compressed, because you're doing JPEG images or something, that's already compressed. You're doing some kind of like AVI files, movie files, anything like that, those are compressed. You're doing database files, those are compressed. But if you're dealing with text is not compressed generally. And so if you use a fast compression, what you're going to do is you're trying to reap the rewards of, let's say you have 20 gigs of text, right? Well, that compression, that fast compression, might break that 20 gigs of text down to like a few hundred megs, right? Or maybe a gig or something. Maybe the compression is not going to be as good as if it did it like at a harder rate of compression, but you're going to save a huge amount of space for your movement by just doing that fast compression. But then when it hits like the JPEG images or the movie files or the databases or whatever, it's really going to try very little to compress them. And so that gives you a huge cost benefit by not having to use a ton of CPU resources, but at the same time get a lot of the benefit of doing the compression itself. So there you go. Cool. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed JaxLUG for March, and hope to see you guys again. Hope to see you in person sooner than later, but we'll see how that works out. We'll just kind of ride the CDC recommendations for that. And
Yeah, I saw the Jax group actually met in person this month. I'm
I
like,
saw that.
yeesh.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. We are going to be following the CDC guidelines. So whenever they
Yeah,
say
I
that,
still-
like, what people that have been vaccinated can, meet in person and, have these larger events and stuff, then we will do them. Until then, we'll be online exclusively. And believe me, I want to see you guys. I miss seeing you guys. But it's for the safety of our folks. So.
Yep.
Hope to see you soon. Think about a presentation you guys like to see. If you want to do one, please reach out and do one. Yes, because I do love to talk, and I just really don't want to do all the presentations. But I am very appreciative to the folks that have done the presentations over the last year, and would love to see more of them. So. I'll catch you guys later. Thank you very much. Have a nice night.